30. Voivod, Nothing Face. Voivod don't quite get the attention that I feel that they deserve a lot of the time. But mainly it's their 80s output I like. They're a Canadian band, thrash metal roots, but progressive. Very quickly became like progressive thrash metal in the late 80s, and then I think these days they're just kind of progressive metal. Yeah, I mean, 3 albums really in the late 80s by Voivod, which is why they are so great. And it's Killing Technology, Dimension Hatros, and Nothing Face. I had Dimension Hatros for a while. For some reason I never really connected with it. I mean to get Killing Technology because I do enjoy that a lot when I've listened to it on Spotify, but I've never owned it. This is the album I got into, Nothing Face, 1989 it was. This was the album I got into as a teenager, and I used to have it on vinyl. Now I've got it on CD. It's a brilliant album. It's not quite as thrashy as the 2 preceding ones. It is a lot more on the progressive side. It's a very weird, bizarre sounding album. The lyrics are very bizarre. I think there's a kind of science fiction environmental message thing going on there, but it's all very weird and hard to really understand what it's really about, but it doesn't matter because it's amazing, the delivery of it, and just they're so odd sounding, so weird sounding, but I love that about them. This album, I mean, the tracks I like off it, I think the most are The Unknown Knows, and then some of the ones towards the end really. Inner Combustion, Pre-Ignition. I think really the ones I like the most are The Unknown Knows, Pre-Ignition, Into My Hypercube, and Sub-Effect. But it's all great. It's just such a bizarre kind of psychedelic, spacey, weird thing that's vaguely metal but just so odd sounding that it's impossible to really classify it. Number 29, Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath. One of the so-called first wave of black metal bands, but they're not black metal in sound at all really. Satanic subject matter and proto corpse paint. It's not really corpse paint, I suppose, with Merciful Fate, but yeah, the beginning of that kind of black and white kind of face paint thing. They're a massive influence on black metal, even though they're not black metal in sound. They're more like heavy metal. They're more like Judas Priest, maybe a little bit of thrash in there. Judas Priest meets early Metallica or something. The vocalist King Diamond has a very, very high-pitched vocal style, which it's like Rob Halford on Helium, really. It does take some getting used to, but I love it, to be honest. It's very haunting kind of effect from that very high-pitched vocal over the top of the music. And but this is a great album. It's lovely cover there with the fucking devil and the flames. Brilliant, brilliant album artwork. This is the one for me. I know a lot of people like Melissa, but I don't really get into that stuff. But this album is just great. I love pretty much every song on it. I especially love, I don't know, Welcome Princess of Hell and Come to the Sabbath, The Oath and A Dangerous Meeting and stuff, but it's all great stuff. Yeah, it's good kind of satanic, your parents wouldn't like it kind of thing, but it's great. I mean, tons of atmosphere, tons of musicalness, as well as this awesome diabolical ethos behind it, and it's just a really, really good classic heavy metal album. Number 28, Slayer, South of Heaven. Yes, often overlooked because it's the one that comes in between 2 of their biggest albums, Rain in Blood and Seasons of the Abyss. So it often gets overlooked these days, which I feel is a shame. For me, the classic Slayer albums are those 3, Rain in Blood, South of Heaven, Seasons of the Abyss. And they provide a lovely kind of trilogy of Slayer albums, which are Slayer at their best. And yeah, South of Heaven, it slowed things down. After Rain and Blood was really fast and really brutal and stuff, they then went for a slower, more atmospheric, moody kind of vibe. but it's still Slayer, it's still thrash metal, and some of their best songs are on here, like South of Heaven, like Mandatory Suicide, there's Live Undead, Behind the Crooked Cross, Read Between the Lies. These are all brilliant, brilliant Slayer tracks, and I love it. It's a really good album. Mandatory Suicide is probably my favourite Slayer song. Raining Blood might be my favourite Slayer song, but Mandatory Suicide's up there. Yeah, that's on this album. Brilliant song about war, about the horrors of war, you know. I sort of imagine First World War going over the top when it's like, you know, mandatory suicide, massacre on the front lines. South of Heaven, great kind of, you know, Armageddon's come, and, you know, probably all the good people have been raptured away, we've been left behind, sort of. I think that's sort of where the lyrics are coming from. It's like, you know, Earth is south of heaven, it's kind of hell. No, so it's a great song, it's a classic Slayer song anyway. Yeah, Silent Scream, I feel like Ultra in the Future by Death is almost like an answer to Silent Scream by Slayer, because, I mean, perhaps Tom Araya's Catholicism is showing here, because Silent Scream is kind of anti-abortion, but it's good musically. I love Live Undead. It's about being a zombie or something. It's about being some kind of... You've died and you're being buried and all that, but you're still alive and kind of rising from the grave kind of thing, and it's like a dead soul, no goal, out into the night kind of thing. It's interesting to hear a song from the point of view of such a creature, rather than from the point of view of those being attacked by such a creature. Sort of a zombie song, but from the zombie's point of view, and I find that a very enjoyable track to listen to. And it doesn't seem to get a lot of praise or attention, so... Behind the Crooked Cross. The Crooked Cross is a term used of the swastika in Nazi Germany. And yeah, this seems to be about a Nazi soldier having a kind of crisis of conscience about what he's doing and what he's involved in here. Goes to War is good. Read Between the Lies. Evangelist, you claim God speaks to you through you. It's really attacking the televangelist thing, like exploit people for money and stuff. I love the end track as well, Spill the Blood. It's one of them Slayer tracks that has like an acoustic kind of beginning, and then when it kicks in it's like... But yeah, no, it's a great Slayer album and I like it. Number 27, I might get some hate for this, is Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. Yes, I know, Linkin Park are quite one of the cheesier nu metal things, one of the more commercial nu metal things. I've heard Linkin Park be referred to as a kind of boy band of metal, and I hate boy band. There was stuff around that time, what was it, Boyzone and Westlife, and I hate that stuff. But I don't think it's fair. I mean, I don't know. When people say things like that, is there a hint of kind of their manufactured band? I'm not sure they are a manufactured band though. I'm pretty sure they're just a band. But I get it. They're kind of more commercial, sort of a thing. The commercial end of nu metal. To me, Limp Bizkit are by far more of an example of everything that was wrong with nu metal. Just the cheesy, horrible squeaky vocals of that vocalist, and the kind of cheesy, very rappy kind of... And I hate Limp Bizkit really. But Linkin Park, this album as well, I mean, it's really good music, it's really good songs, and it really means something to me personally, because it came at a time in my life where I was having a massive... There was an ex-girlfriend of mine that I'd really recently split up with at that time, who was very controlling and possessive and emotionally abusive, and my head was wrecked after that relationship. And also, around the time I broke up with her, also my mum died of pancreatic cancer. So I was, but I had a complicated relationship with my mum. I suppose because she represented authority, kind of narrow-minded, judgmental kind of Christian morality that I've been brought up in. So when someone dies like that, that's a family figure, but your relationship with them is complicated, it can be difficult to go through that grief process. And so I'd been sort of in denial and running away from the grief for a while, and I was quite into drugs at the time as well, and I had a bit of a massive anxiety meltdown. And I got this album around the time that I was in the grips of that anxiety meltdown, and so a lot of this album is very much about that. Like tracks like Paper Cut and Crawling for me are about the anxiety meltdown itself. You've got tracks like One Step Closer and Points of Authority and stuff that were really about the ex-girlfriend and what she put me through. And there's a track called In the End, which is about me coming to terms with the grief over my mum dying. For me, that's what it's about. And that the meaning and significance attached for me to these tracks means that this album will always be special for me. I know it's kind of commercial end of new metal, and therefore tends to get sneered at by metal purists. I know that, but at the end of the day, never mind how metal or not it is, it's a good album full of good songs, and it's meant a lot to me in my life, so it will always be special. And that's why it's on this list. That's why it's so high on this list. That's why of the 3 albums of this list that you could call new metal, though people would dispute that with Slipknot, that's why this is the highest of those, even though arguably Korn and Slipknot, those albums are more credible in metal circles, and arguably, I suppose, better and more accomplished at what they're doing, but nevertheless, this is good music. These are good songs, and they've meant a lot to me in my life. At a point in my life where I was having a really difficult time as well, and so it's always going to be a sort of special album for me. So there you are. Number 26, Back in Black by ACDC. Yes, ACDC's Back in Black. This is the album with, I mean, it's called Back in Black because of Bon Scott dying. And the band obviously decided to carry on rather than just stop when the vocalist died. But this is their comeback. That's why it's called Back in Black. This is their comeback album, as it were, after that happened, to say we're not going anywhere. We're still going to keep going. But obviously in black because of mourning. With the new vocalist Brian Johnson, and it was 1980, and it's one of the big AC/DC albums. Highway to Hell and Let There Be Rock are probably the other ones that are like the most famous AC/DC albums. Let There Be Rock, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black. Back in Black it definitely tends to be the most famous AC/DC album. And yeah, I mean, unlike Highway to Hell, where I like pretty much every song on there are some songs on there that I don't really like, so it's weird that it's higher than Highway to Hell. Because I don't really into Shoot to Thrill, or what you do for money, honey, or Giving the Dog a Bone, or Let Me Put My Love Into You. I don't like those songs. I find them a bit sexist and annoying. I mean, maybe it's because with Highway to Hell I listened to that first as a teenager, whereas the Back in Black album I listened to as an adult many years later. Maybe I was just more attuned by this point in time to the vaguely sexist tendencies of a lot of hard rock. So it kind of annoyed me more, and I couldn't get into them songs. Maybe it is because they're just a little bit more crude and disrespectful than the just kind of, hey, I like having sex kind of songs of Highway to Hell. I don't know, but I don't like a lot of those songs, and they tend to annoy me. But I think the reason it's higher than Highway to Hell is because the songs that I do like, that I love, absolutely love, on this album, I love so much more than any of the material on Highway to Hell. So I think that's why it's higher on the list. Because Hell's Bells, the opener, oh my god, I love that song. As well as obviously Back in Black and You Shook Me All Night Long. And then Shake a Leg and Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. These are all tracks that I absolutely love by AC/DC. Hell's Bells, of course, opens with that bell. And that brilliant opener and stuff. And then when the song kicks in, it's great, you know. If you're into evil, you're a friend of mine. If God's on the left, then I'm sticking to the right. Another one of those kind of anti-religion kind of ACDC songs. But yeah, Hell's Bells is great. And of course you got Back in Black. Back in Black. It's just a great rock song. And You Shook Me All Night Long, which is a bit like Touch Too Much or Highway to Hell. It's about having this amazing, mind-blowing sexual experience with a woman. And the funny thing about tracks like this, given how hetero and masculine this sort of music is how like I'm like very sexually submissive and transgender and everything, and yet I was relating to it from, because this was before I realised I was trans, relating to it from the point of view of the guy, as it were. What I find interesting about songs like this, from you know, a musical style and a band that are very hetero and masculine in quite a conventional way a lot of the time, is just how sexually passive this is. It's like this woman took the lead and really threw me around and really gave me a good sing to, and I fucking loved it, sort of thing. And now I've always been able to relate to that because I like that myself. But yeah, You Shook Me All Night Long, brilliant song. And then yeah, you get the great songs at the end. Shake a Leg, Bang Your Head, Wake the Dead, Shake a Leg. Oh, it's just fun. And Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. And rock and roll ain't noise pollution, rock and roll ain't gonna die, and all that. It's just fun. And yeah, Back in Black, ACDC, classic album.